Welcome back. I'd like to do a demo today and talk a little bit more about sitting because lots of the pranayama or the breathing exercises that we're going to do are talking about sitting. So, having been a meditation practitioner for over 45 years, there has been a fair amount of time that I have been in physical discomfort. And so, I would like, the Yes Yoga work is all about freedom and lightness and how can we be out of pain and listening to our bodies and inquiring. So with that said, this is Slim. He's kind of a mess, but he's been with me about 25 years. We're looking for a position where we have the support we need for our upper trunk. And I'm going to give you some different positions and some ideas. And so if you want to join me, we're going to try use a blanket. We're using some bolsters or cushions. I've got a playground ball. We're going to try to use a larger ball. I'm going to give you some sensation if you have one around, and a simple chair. We might even use the yoga wedge too. And I'll show you that in a moment. So what we're looking for is to have, if we're going to do our sitting in a sitting position, we want to have the head over the shoulders over our hips, and feel a sense of comfort in our lower back and upper back. And it's much harder than it sounds for us, especially with gravity pulling down on us. So we know that we have a curve that goes into the neck. We want to keep that natural curve. We know we have a curve that goes into the upper back, that goes out. We know that there's a curve in the lumbar, the lower back, that goes in again. And we know that we have the sacrum, okay, and the coccyx, the sitting bone underneath here. So we've got this sort of wave motion, in, out, in again, and sitting. One of the places that actually brings discomfort is to be too far forward, and so that these lower vertebrae begin to press on the nerves that come out of these side holes, these foramen. And another position that seems to cause tension in the upper neck and shoulders and also in the back is to have too much roundness. Okay. It brings the head and neck forward, and if it doesn't, it begins to cut different areas off from energy. So we're looking for a lovely flow of energy, and we want to figure out what positions get us. So you'll first see that I'm in something we call Virasana, this bent knee position. And you'll find that, Heidi's work and the Yes Yoga system is all about balls and balloons, so there are plenty around. And I do like other supporting props. I can tell you right now that if you don't have a playground ball or you don't have balloons, anything that we do can be done with blocks. Okay? It's just that I prefer the balls just because of their buoyancy and how they accommodate the movement and the position that they fit in my whole pelvis. Okay, so even in this position, where I place the ball is if I place it back, I find that my lower back arches. Can you see that? All right. I find that if I place it too far forward, I am rounded and my whole upper body is forward too. And if I put it just right sitting in the bowl of the basin, right here, a little bit in front of the tailbone, just a smidge, that it actually gives me some buoyancy for the upper body. And it's quite lovely. It's soft. It works great. Okay? We can take that out. Let's add a block, which is kind of nice. I find it, you can put a cushion on it. Same thing. I don't want it too far back, because it arches my lower back. Don't want it too far forward. This is a Goldilocks class because it allows me to slouch. But there's a place right about here that feels really nice. And it's as if my sitting bones, these two sitting bones, the ischiotubosity, are just sitting forward of the block, just supporting the pelvis. And this is a position. So I take a few minutes, I'm really quite fussy, and I take a few minutes and I adjust myself. But I'm going to use my ball. Okay. put it underneath here. So some people find that this is hard on the knees and they don't like this position, which is just fine. You could elevate, you can raise the seat of the floor using a block, less pressure on the knees. You can adjust sitting backward. And again, finding those sitting bones. For me, I'm sliding slightly off them. You can be directly on them, whatever's most comfortable. And finding your position. Playing around with taking each and every block down a little bit. And finding the position. Okay, let's do the same thing for sitting. So my favorite and easy way, I want no fuss, no muss. I know the ball size that I like. I'm going to place it once again in a little bit different place because the pelvis is now in a different position. So I'm going to place it underneath, right in front of my tailbone. And I feel the lovely, I'm going to get settled in, I feel the lovely buoyancy of the ball lifting me up. And if you have tight hips, sockets, okay, the way the thigh bone comes in, I don't like to have the drag because after about 10 minutes I really start feeling the pull in my thigh bones as they release. Sometimes I like to start with a little bit of height, and again, tighter in the hip sockets and the pelvis. You're going to want something higher. So I like to use a block of some sort. You can even take a ball or a balloon, okay, depending on what you have around. And placing something underneath there, and once again, noticing if the pelvis is coming back or forward, having just the right movement. And I'm really pretty fussy when I first sit down to inquire into what's going on. And take a moment. All right, again, this is a demo. We're going to find our tools that we want to sit with, and we're going to sit together for a bit, but we're going to play with different positions. So if you came to one of my classes, you would find out that I have a station like this set up for you so that you would be able to go into this position, into this position, into this position, and ultimately come back to your mat and decide what's most comfortable in this moment that you want to explore and sit with. Okay, so my favorite, and we'll come back to it, is just placing the ball underneath, adjusting the sitting bones, adjusting the tailbone. I love the way it supports me moving upward, and I find the position. All right. So let's take a couple other things. Blankets. You can use many. I'm just going to use one blanket, and I'm going to use some cushions as which could be blankets also, just to kind of show you what happens. So I'm going to take, I like the rounded edge on my blanket, and I'm going to sit at the edge of it and play again. I might roll it up a little bit farther, because if I am flat, I feel very compressed, and it throws my upper body forward, and it's really quite uncomfortable. And I know I can't stay very long without being in pain. And so that's my meditation. How do I stay in and out of pain? And if I can adjust things at the very beginning and kind of get it to some semblance of having it feel comfortable, then I have much more time for deep contemplation. Okay? So you can take it and again play around, see if that's a little bit of height might be all you need. Maybe you need a little bit more. I like it right off the sitting bones. I don't want it too flat. If I sit too high, I'm back here again. If I sit too far off, I'm too far forward. So I'm going to play. And how do I know where the right position is? I actually don't know when I first sit down. So Each day I have to come and start and begin again. All right? So you can roll it up a little bit more. And the higher I get, the little bit less tension there is on my thighs and my hip sockets. Now I'm pretty flexible, so I don't need that much height. But each day I'll come and say, oh, you know, that's kind of nice for today. I usually don't sit this high, but this could be fun. And I just have to be careful about my lower back. Again, I often say, imagine, now I don't want to tuck under. This is a little different than some of your teachers are teaching. I don't want to tuck the tailbone under or the sitting bones. I just want to drip them lightly. Just release, and there's a small movement. So let me show you something. When we look at the spine, these are the holes on the side. We notice that they're very small. And so this work, the somatic work that I'm doing, working with the visceral really slow and deep, I notice that I don't have to have a huge movement in order to make a big change. That a small adjustment, a slight tilt back, or maybe forward, okay? And typically people are more forward, but there are people that are too far back, so you have to decide which one you are. And just a small adjustment will open these holes. So be gentle with yourself and make small micro movements to really find the refinement of the pose. Okay, so then we're going to come down and come down, and feels low, so I'm going to take the back and come up a little bit more, and maybe just a little bit more. Like that. So how do you know it's the right place? Because it feels good. And do I want you to begin to trust that sensation? Yes. Okay. There are times when you can question it, but for the most part, especially as a beginner, every time it feels good, I want you to tell your mind, I really like that. And then take note of the position of the pelvis or wherever you're acquiring into, and really define it. I like how the arch of my lower back just sits comfortably, just a slight natural curve. Again, if you don't have flexibility in your legs and you have tight hip sockets and tight legs, you might need something underneath your knees. And again, that will change where you sit on your pelvis, so every time you make an adjustment, you have to go back and begin again. Okay? Even to the point where having your hands forward over your knees or sliding them towards your pelvis will change everything in the upper body. So when we get ready to sit and you find your spot, we'll work a little bit on that. Okay? Great. So here's sitting on a ball. And I often don't sit on the ball for meditation. There's actually, for me, almost too much movement, but I do love the way you're going to find out as I teach some pregnancy classes to you and some teacher trainings and some other work that I really do like how the ball accommodates movement. So, we'll talk a lot about having the knees and hips parallel as we sit on the ball. And this is a good place to notice as I roll back, it rounds, the head comes forward. As I roll forward, it's overuse and indents and it compresses the lower back. And there's a place that's just right. So when we lay down in another one of our classes together, I'm going to have you place your hands on the ribs and the top front part of your pelvis, and noticing that the fingers come together as we round our back in flexion. Notice when we come forward in extension, and then notice when we come just right. And that's what we're always looking for, that comfortable, just right. And just kind of moving from that place, that middle back is really the area that I'm playing with. Then I adjust my upper body and below it, legs and lower pelvis. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's bring these. Again, some pretty pillows, some cushions that you may have in your house. And if I sit down in them, we'll sit this way. I feel kind of flattened and rounded. I know that if I shift forward, fold my legs, it's too high and I'm sliding off and there's too much of an indent. So I'm playing Goldilocks, feet together, feet crossed. I'm going to grab a couple blocks. All sorts of little toys around and props to accommodate. I'm always looking for comfort and ease. So yeah, way too high, not enjoying this at all. I'm going to come along, take one away. But I'm going to settle in for a moment because I want the sensory input. I want to feel what each movement likes. All right, you know, it opens my hip sockets in a particular way, where the femur meets the thigh bone, meets the hips. I still feel a little bit of tension in my lower back as I wait a moment. So, okay, not bad. And of course, the proof is in the pudding. 10 or 15 minutes after you sit, you really know if it was a position that worked for you or not. Right? We'll take it down. Each one of you are going to be different, so we'll be doing something different. And not bad. Right? I feel my sitting bones rooted to the ground. I feel my tailbone slightly moving forward. I notice that I'm not in flexion or extension, but I'm kind of in this position. Not bad, right? And if I was going to stay here a long time, I might put a little something under my knees so that I know that as they relax, they'll pull. Okay, next, everybody with me? I know this takes a little bit of time, and the next segment, we're going to just do the sitting, and I will take you into some pranayama and some breathing movements. Okay? So here's this. Take it off. Rounding, locking the lower back. Not happy. Not happy. It goes right into the neck. And you'll see in my work that I share with you how the whole spine is connected and every single piece of the puzzle affects the other pieces. Okay? So this is not going to work for me. If you have tight hips, you're going to find that your knees are up. So this is going to be in this position, and then you're still going to be farther back. So I often go into yoga class, I watch people sit, and this is what I see them sitting in. And I'm pretty unhappy that they have to endure that suffering, okay? Because that's typically what it is. All right, and so the last one, if I take it down, I rarely like to be flat on the floor. I find it to be pretty uncomfortable, and I can really feel it through the lower back. So with all the other explanations, you know how I feel at the moment. Okay, so then let's look right here and talk a little bit about using a chair. And, you know, this might be the best solution, especially as we get older, that it feels kind of nice sitting in a chair. I also like the way this particular chair rounds and my back is nestled into it. I like how it supports my back and then it supports my upper body, my neck and shoulders. I have to be careful that it doesn't tilt the pelvis back too far, so again, I might have to adjust for that position, not too far back or forward, just right. And then some people like to use the chair and actually not use the back of the chair. So again, 90 degrees, right, too far forward, too far back, just right. Too far back, too far forward, just right. Okay. And I said I would show you in some of the pregnancy classes that I teach. And we'll be teaching teachers and students here as we go along together. I have this lovely wedge from a company called Contour. And so you'll see that as I teach my moms and they get bigger, they don't like to lie flat on their backs. So we're elevating them, and sometimes we need to even use blankets and pillows underneath it to make it higher. And they have two different sizes. This is the larger one. But what really works nice is you can actually come onto this. This is the inflatable ones. They have just foam ones. And sit in this position. Again, grabbing. If you want blankets, cushions, not any pull. Careful that as soon as you put it underneath it that you don't end up rolling back, but you find that not too far back, not too far forward, that just right position, playing with your arms. Okay, so if you found all of this to be interesting, I'm going to turn off the video, and the next segment is going to be just sitting. So this is the demo for finding your cushion.